we got cut off. This is part 2. And we were just talking about compliance for your deal packaging business.
Compliance. Okay, so to be compliant, the registrations are, very quickly, because I covered it in the one where we got cut off, but I don't know how far we got. PI insurance, TPO, data protection, HMRC, anti-money laundering supervision. Okay, if you've got those things in place, I don't think you're going to go to jail. It'll be fine.
Cool. So the third question is investors. Where do you find these people? It's obviously something that a lot of people talk about in the community, that they struggle to find investors. I came to you 8 weeks ago with that same problem. So yeah, do you want to tell people what you told me to do and basically how it's changed my business massively in 8 short weeks?
So go on. How has it changed your business in 8 short weeks?
So within 8 weeks, no one really knew who I was, and I've managed to raise over £600,000 worth of investor finance to work with other people and build them property portfolios within Sheffield through the advice that you gave me, which was social media.
And you were the top poster in the progressive community last month, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the deal, team. You have to actually put yourself out there and do it. So social media, and I know half the people watching this now are going to say social media, yay, and the other half are going social media, ooh. Right. And I had to go through that. So I did not have a Facebook account before I came to Progressive. So I just never used it. I wasn't involved. So my profile, I haven't got any sort of real friends. Sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? Former life friends, how's that? On my profile, very, very few. Few ladies from Slimming World. That's about it. But they have to...
You weren't feeding them pies, David.
We had a laugh. You should have been there the week I got to Target. You know, I stripped right down. I didn't take any chances. Anyway, yes, a few, bless them. There's a few of them on there. But otherwise, it's all property people. So I don't post my dinner or legs on a sunbed, those sort of pictures. There's more techie stuff happening, team. Where are we going with this? I don't know where I got
investors,
lost. Investors.
Social media.
Okay, well, yeah, social media. Right. Get out there and tell people who you are and what you're doing. Right. Plan it. Talk about your area. Talk about your offer. Talk about who you are. Talk about the returns that you can get. Craig Hamilton, good afternoon. I owe you a phone call, Craig. It's my fault. I'm really sorry. Talk about what you are doing, right? Rob Moore taught me the little that I know, right? He taught me a lot, but I learnt a little, okay? Content marketing. Talk about houses. Talk about working with estate agents. Talk about, they want to see the journey. People want to see your journey, okay? One of the best videos that you did was the one where you'd made a mistake. And you went back and you put it right, and you walked out with an off-market property, right? That's life. That's absolutely what happens. But people love to see the mistakes, especially when you can put it right after. There's Sean Forsey, my friend Sean Forsey, if he watches this later, hi Sean, down in Wales, he started taking pictures of all these smelly, unpleasant little houses that he was going to see, and he had a competition with which had the worst carpet, right? There were some pretty grim carpets there. So put yourself out there, tell people who you are and what you're doing, let your character shine through. The fastest way to find investor money is to use Facebook, but you've got to do it with a bit of fun. You know, I bit my tongue, but I'm going to say it out loud. Right. You love it now. I can tell you love it, right? So you were a bit doubtful when you started, a bit hesitant.
Really hesitant when I first started, yeah.
Let's throw on a live and just tell them how it is. And you're all in, and Laura, it's cool, right? Because it's who you are.
Warts
and
and all.
Coming through. Yeah, absolutely. So it's really, really good. So that is the fastest way in my experience to put yourself out there. We can all think of two or three or four people who are positioning themselves in the progressive community and maybe on their own pages as well as go-to people for certain strategies. You know, rent-to-rent SA, HMO, whatever. You've got to do it. Get out there and do it.
Cool.
Okay?
Yeah. And so for me, obviously I've got my own personal benefits of why I've got into deal packaging, but realistically, what are the benefits starting on your deal packaging journey, where, you know, what do people use that basically of a vehicle to do?
Okay. A lot of people who come into deal packaging and start on the journey don't finish up as deal packagers. It's rare 5 years later to find someone who started as a deal packager and is continuing to be a deal packager. So I am, because I did. Jamie York is, because he did. But on the journey, we find other stuff to do as well. So we work in commercial conversions, right? We work in SA, HMO, whatever, you name it. So the advantage for deal packages is if you want a really fast start, force-fed, all the strategies, you need somebody to guide you through it, right? So don't try and do it all on day one. But that's a really cool way to learn on other people's money. Now, I'm not saying be fast and loose with other people's money, right? I'm not. You've got to get it right. But the pain, no matter what pain you feel using other people's money, it's much more painful if you're using your own. It is. So I think deal packaging is great for you to go out and role play having a property business. In the same way that when we set up the estate agent script, right, I advise people to go to a different town and practice there. Right.
I did that.
Right. There you go. See, she does stuff, right? So if you go to a different town, you can relax in that. It doesn't matter if you crash and burn because you're not going to work there anyway, so it doesn't matter. But then the worst thing that can happen is you get offered a deal. It could go right, okay, but it's not in the town you want. So, you know, this is how it rolls, right? Where are we up to?
I'm going to ask you another question, if that's all
right.
Go
on then,
yeah. So I think one thing that's really important as well is obviously when you're working with investors, how do you present the deal? What figures are really important? Obviously, there's a battle between ROI and ROCE. Obviously, being in the deal packaging mastermind, obviously I know which figures I use personally, but you know I hear every day, oh, what about ROI? Well, can you clarify that for us?
Can indeed. Rick Cusimano, welcome. Good to see you out there, Rick. Okay, I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet about ROI with respect to property. I don't get it. I got O levels, I got A levels. I actually have an honours degree in law. Ooh. I know. It was a long time ago. And I don't get ROI with respect to property. So I think the two industry numbers you need to worry about, be concerned about, that are universally accepted are gross yield, which is the gross rent roll for 12 months divided by the cost of acquisition, or the total cost. I don't always include my deal packaging fee in the total cost. It's just, I tell them differently. I know that's not quite right. So those are gross numbers. Gross divided by gross. Return on capital employed is your net rent roll after all the deductions divided by the cash that's left in the deal. So if you refinance, if you go in and buy cash, that's cool. If you refinance, it's the money that you leave in the deal. Those are net figures. Net rent roll, cash left in the deal, gross and gross. ROI, I don't think works for property. It's great if you're selling stocks and shares and gold and bullion and all that sort of thing, because those don't have leverage in the mix, right? And where I get lost with ROI, my bad, right, is we seem to be trying to work with net numbers and gross numbers at the same time. And I struggle with that. And the other thing you need to be aware of is people use the term ROI when they actually mean ROCE. So any investor worth their salt, the number they want is ROCE, the return on the capital that they've left in the deal. Net numbers, right? Gross yield is an industry-based standard. Usually new investors will talk gross yield, but if you're working with an experienced investor, it's more ROCE. So to answer your question directly, how do you present that to an investor? I invert it. So I will have this conversation with the investor up front, right? And what I will do is I'll find out what numbers they want. Right, I'll find out what gross yield they're prepared to accept. I'll find out what the return on the capital employed is that they want. Remembering, of course, that they probably got cash in the bank or building society. What sort of interest rate they're getting, Laura?
Zero.
Right. She's right. Very little, right? So if we can get a return on capital of 16%, 26%, 36%, and those are achievable depending which part of the country you're in, all good, right? This is all good. So I don't present it to them. I get them to confirm.
By doing your fact-finding.
By doing the fact-finding, and I say to them very clearly in words of one syllable before that's over, right? So if I go out and find something that gives you a return on your capital of 25%, are you going to be happy with that? Because what's going to happen, Mrs. Investor, so I'm going to go shopping, and as the good book says, seek and you shall find. I'm going to find one, right? So if I go looking for one and find one, are you all in, right? Is that where we are with this?
If you can get me 30.
Well, if 30 is a number, then I need to know 30 is a number, right? So I've got sort of a conditional close going on there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going shopping, then I come back. Guess what, Laura? I've found it. I've got your 30% return on capital employed. Fab.
Woo!
Shall we do the paperwork?
Let's do it.
There you go. You see, it wasn't it?
Sold.
Done. So I would start there, and I would.
I'm quite new in my deal packaging journey. I've only been doing it really 8 weeks.
Yep.
And what I have found is, for me personally, actually sitting down and explaining kind of what figures I use to work out the ROCE, because what I have found by certain investors is they work it out completely different to what I do.
Yep.
Is that something that you do as well?
Yep.
Cool.
So it's part education. We have to educate people.
Yeah.
It's actually, and the other thing is, they don't understand the numbers that they're working out.
No.
So it's an educative process. What they think they're working out is actually a completely wrong number. Okay, I've had that. So that's why I keep it very simple. 2 numbers, gross, net. Don't mix them up.
Cool. And my last question for you is, what are the common mistakes that new deal packagers make and how to avoid them?
Yes. 2 big ones, right? Inactivity. So why do people come on our training? Not you, Laura, because you didn't. No, but you didn't do this, right? Sunday night they drive home with a skip in their step, they're all revved up and enthusiastic and ready to go, right? And they wake up Monday morning, everything's changed. Because now they have to do something. They've got to do something. What are they going to do all on their own? So just do something, right? Make a few phone calls, go and see some estate agents, tell them what you're doing, do a couple of Facebook posts. You don't have to do video day one. You don't have to live it day one. You can blog your way, right? Start to build your profile as an honourable and professional deal packager in the forums where you think that will attract attention, right? I'm always told off for not doing it enough. It doesn't take very long. One of my mentors shared with me how long each day he spends on social media. It quite took me aback, because I squeeze in like a minute and a half here and 2 minutes there. But it's a bit of an afterthought, right? But this is planned like a military operation,
Do we know this guy that you're
we
talking about?
we do know who he is. And we're talking into hours here, right? Because by the time you finish with Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter and whatever else, right? And it's a very serious thing to do. I've got to get my head around this. So I am now working with the fantastic team at Progressive, who are going to look after my social media for me going forward. They're going to tell me what to do, and then I'm going to have to go and do it. And and I thought that was the best way for me to move forward, because left to my own devices, I tend not to do it, and you've got to do it. So you said 2 things, 2 mistakes that deal packages made. Number 1, they don't do anything, so you've got to do something. And number 2, enjoy the process. Right, don't get driven by fear. I mean, fear is a terrible thing, and fear can hold you back, and fear turns you into somebody you're not, and fear takes all your good qualities away and just leaves you with the bad qualities. And don't be fearful, right? Don't be frightened. I have people say to me, I'm frightened of going into estate agents. I'm frightened if they've got a lion in the estate agent. That would be, I wouldn't go into that estate agent, right? Because I don't want to get gnawed upon by a huge carnivore. I don't, okay? But just fear of going into an estate agent, I don't get that, right? I've got somebody in my head. She said to me, right, she's frightened of making a phone call. Yeah, I can get that, right? But the physical process of picking up a phone and dialing a number and making a phone call, we can all do that. The fear is about what you think the perception's going to be at the other end. Who cares, right? Just practice the scripts, the things you're supposed to say, scripts. Practice it. So there's only one. I've been thinking, while I've been talking about your question, you said the two things, but actually it's only one thing, okay. Laura. The one thing is just do something. Do it. Get out there and do it. And
just going back to your estate agency point,
yes.
I did feel a bit fearful when I first started on my journey going into a deal packaging, into estate agents. But one thing I think that really helped me is I actually went in with properties they were advertising to strike up that conversation to start off with. So I didn't kind of feel like I was going in and...
So you talked about stuff they had on the racks?
Basically.
Okay, cool.
And it kind of opened a easier conversation.
Right. So how long before that fear went away? Because you're not frightened now.
Probably within a day.
A day?
Or even the first estate agency I went into, if I'm honest. I think once you've done it, they're just normal people. I don't know why we build up this preconception that they're something that they're potentially not. Yeah, they're going to suss you out. They'll know that you're a newbie and you don't know your stuff, right? And they're like hard-nosed property sharks, right? Most of them are not even into property themselves. Well, they don't know as much as you do about property, right? And look who's watching! Look who's watching! Don't mention his name. No. Hello, Kevin. And they got like a bottom drawer, with their black book in with their big-wig investors, and you're not going to be there. And they haven't. I'll tell you what, the property tarts, that's what estate agents are. You sell one deal for an estate agent, they'll give you anything. Because that's what they're there for. They've got overheads, they've got offices, they've got cars, they've got wages, right? They've got to sell houses. If you can sell houses, they'll work with you. Cool. Well, thank you so much, David, for your time today. My pleasure. Appreciate it. Yeah. My husband's now watching. He's next door. I'm not watching. I'm passing by. It's Mr. McDonald. That is. Yeah. He's not actually watching. Thanks for watching, Kevin. Mr. McDonald is not my husband. The comment below is. Just to point that out. Cool. Thank Laura, you. No, thanks for asking me. And we're going to keep on working together. Yeah. Whatever you want, I'm very happy to do. Brilliant. And I hope it's been useful. And we will see you all soon.